I've been able to build some really neat resumes from the CICE
diverse
program
skills set,
because of all of these placements that they've done.
For sure. And they don't really think about it as employment, but it is. We treat it as such, right? Like 100%. You've had 3 jobs now.
Yep. My name is Erica Davidson, and I create content to help people with disabilities to secure employment and to highlight them in their workplaces as well. And I'm in the process right now of creating 30 tips for primary caregivers of people with disabilities who would like to secure employment. You can actually find that on my channel in my playlist. And I think I'm probably at about number 28 soon. But if you go to tip number 7, I'm actually suggesting in there that you encourage continuous learning. And I think that continuous learning in life is important whether you have a disability or you don't. But unfortunately, it's been my experience that somehow some people with disabilities, certain types of disabilities, they kind of can get forgotten about or feel like there's only a certain level that they will ever reach in the world of learning, in the world of workplaces. But I believe that that could actually continue to be expanded and extended and that everybody can continue to learn. So you can find that there. And that also brings me to my very special guest today, Aaron Russell.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm so glad that you're meeting with me today. I really appreciate this.
This is awesome.
So Aaron is part of the team with the CICE program. We'll learn what that means in just a minute at Niagara College. And this meeting in particular is really important to me for a couple of reasons, Aaron. Want to know why?
Why?
So one is because you and I are friends. We had the chance to work together just a couple of years ago. Sometimes that feels like 5 minutes ago. Sometimes it can feel like 10 years ago. But we had a chance to meet together, and we actually worked at the DSBN Transition to Employment Services. We were there. You were there much longer than me.
For sure, yes.
Yeah. And so that's another great program if you are in the Niagara area, and they actually help people with disabilities to secure employment. And then Aaron left there, moved on to different things, and that's what he's doing here. And so the CICE program at Niagara College. So that's one reason it's important to me, is that you and I already know each other. So I'm really glad to be here with you. And second is that I am a proud member of the Program Advisory Committee,
yes,
which Aaron invited me to be a part of. And I love that committee. And the people on the committee for this program that we're talking about today are connected to the college, of course, their college staff, and their employers in the area who are committed to hiring people with disabilities, as well as participating in the placements that Aaron's going to talk about today. But that committee is genuinely interested in helping the students of the program really get connected in the workplace and growing in their skills. Yeah. So I am so glad to be a part of that. And the other thing is that I'm actually a Niagara College alumni.
Look at that. Yep. See? Things you learn.
I am a graduate of the Social Service Worker Program on the Welland campus, nice, mind you, and of the Social Service Worker Program way back in 1999. way back in 1999.
That's awesome.
So, yep. So I was like, this is so exciting.
This is awesome. So it's full circle for you. Yeah, this is nice. This is awesome.
So, okay. So first of all, I guess, Aaron, just tell us what CICE even stands for. It's a mouthful.
It's a big mouthful. So it's Community Integration through Cooperative Education. So basically what it means is hands-on learning. It's focused, there's a lot of focus on placements.
Yep.
And on the job learning.
So before we dig in any more about the program, I would like you to tell us a little bit about yourself, your career, your background, like how did you even get here?
Well, it's a funny story actually. I started my career as an elementary teacher.
Okay.
So kindergarten to grade 6 was kind of where I was at.
Yeah.
And for 4 years I was working with the DSBN, the District School Board in Niagara, and it was very challenging because I was at a different school every day. So it's hard to network or make connections when you're all over the place, right?
Sure.
And when you're starting out, you just take whatever's thrown at you, and you and then you land a few LTOs, like a quarter-time teacher, 0.25. So you're here a couple days a week, and it was challenging. So after 4 years of doing that, my son got sick. He was 14 months old. and he had a brain tumor. So it was a pretty big deal, and it was touch and go for a little while. So between the lack of work and just going through that, I was pretty burnt out.
Yeah.
So I made the decision to kind of leave and pick up a job at a pizza place with a former student of mine.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So talk about a humbling experience. You go from, teaching well versed to a pizza job, right? But I paid the bills. I got it done. I healed mentally, and my son was doing well. He made a full recovery.
That's
so
wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah. So once that was done, I think teaching was really off the radar.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go back to maybe one day a month. So there was a job at the food bank as a youth coordinator, kind of developing a little bit of curriculum, after school programs, and helping out where I could. So I thought that's perfect. So I got a job there. Yeah. So it was in my hometown, Port Colborne, and
that's great.
we did that for a year, but they lost funding.
Okay.
But they loved me, they said.
Which
so
unfortunately is sometimes the case
for not-for-profits. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the problem was they said they had an opening in their employment division.
Okay.
And I didn't even know what that was, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I have a job, but I guess, okay, if I want a job, I got to work in employment. So I went there as a job developer.
Yeah.
And that's where my 5 years of experience kind of started there with them doing job development. And all of a sudden, after 5 years, I realized, you know what? I'm missing the disability piece, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot with employment, but I wanted the disability piece. So I transitioned to an employment, DSBN Employment Services.
Right.
And from there,
the rest is history.
The rest is history.
You're at DSBN
yeah.
Services. You were there for a long time.
I was there for about 6-7 years, yeah.
Okay.
And then moved over here. So it's been about 15 years of employment experience now.
That's incredible.
And I really love it.
So we'll give a little plug to Jace Wars.
Oh, hey, there you go.
We're going to touch base on that. Well, it's Jace Wars, okay? So Aaron already let us know that his son had become sick with a tumor.
Yep.
Thankfully not cancerous.
Not cancered.
But because that fear welled up in you guys, you take that very seriously.
For sure.
And so tell us a little bit about Jace Wars.
Yeah, so we formed Jace Wars about a year after his recovery. And Jace is my son, and we love Star Wars. So it's kind of Star Wars theme-based charity where we raise money for McMaster Children's Hospital and Ronald McDonald House. Yeah.
That's great. And you guys have raised, how much have you raised so far?
Over 100,000 in direct
incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you for the work that you do. And your kids, Jace and Gigi, they're so involved. Your wife as well, Desiree. Like, it's a real family affair.
For sure. And we've done everything from fundraisers to bracelet making to you name it, comic books. So
really, it's sort of a bittersweet thing that Aaron fell into. Employment counseling, we can give all the credit to Jace.
100%.
Jace for helping your dad go this route. You didn't have to do it that way, but hey.
That's how it goes, right?
It's
glad. Funny how life kind of goes.
So what I was going to say too is that, so obviously you're hearing a lot about Aaron's heart around helping people through their health issues, but then also coming into employment, you realize, wow, not only do I just want to be in employment, but I really want to help people who really need that help. So if you ever are able to come into contact with Aaron, one thing you're going to notice right away is his really big heart and his compassion. And I think that we know is so important for people in general, and then people with disabilities can come in to situations maybe feeling a little more uncertain. Are they really going to be able to help me? Or maybe the parents or caregivers are going to feel that way, right?
100%.
Are they going to really be able to help me?
It's a lot of fear, for sure.
So one thing I can say about you, Aaron, is that you really help people. You help put people at ease, and you're going to go the extra mile to help them.
Well, I appreciate that.
Appreciate that. In this field, it's really important. Give us just maybe a little bit more, the general overview of the program itself. We already talked about what does it stand for, but who does it serve and what sorts of things can students expect to experience?
For sure. So it's a college level certificate program. So
very cool.
Yeah. So all our students will leave here with a certificate of completion.
Yeah.
It's for individuals who require modified curriculum. So if you can complete a college level course with just accommodations, you wouldn't be suitable for this program. It's really for those individuals with disabilities or significant learning challenges that need that modified curriculum. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons why people might come. Maybe build their pre-employment skills, right? A lot of them might want to work on their social skills.
Right.
A lot of them want to maybe become independent one day. So this is the next step. A lot of them might want to further their education. So this is kind of like that stepping stone to the next level, right? Where they're not really comfortable, they're not sure.
Can I do this and then be able to move on?
Right, and when we build a lot of that into the transition plan, so we don't want to just, okay, you're here for 2 years, thanks for coming, go. We really are focusing on what's the next steps. Because as we all know, if you're not practicing your skills, you're going to start losing those skills, right? So we don't want the 2 years of progression just come to an end, right? We want to make sure that you have your goals, you're going to meet them, and that they're realistic too, right?
Yeah, that's true too. Are they realistic?
Are they realistic goals?
What supports do you have in place to make that work? And I don't think I even realized as a PAC member, so that's the Program Advisory Committee, I don't think I realized when, as you're talking about transition, can you paint that picture a little bit, or what does that look like? Yeah,
so we're a really close-knit team here. So we have full-time professors, we have a program manager, we have learning facilitators, and myself. So we're all meeting weekly to discuss, individuals and what their needs are and how to make them successful. So I wouldn't say that it falls on me directly, but it's a team thing, right? So we want to make sure that everyone gets what they need to be successful, right? And the transition planning, because the program's constantly evolving, it's always, we're trying new things right now and involving new partners. And we want to make sure that we become familiar with these community partners too, because we don't want to recommend somebody and then it's almost like starting over, right?
That's totally true.
So we want to make sure that we recognize those established individuals and agencies that know, have experience working with our guys too, right? So,
awesome. And it sounds like that, so the program is evolving. It sounds like it's also quite individualized.
100%.
That like you're really looking at the student and what does the student need? How much support do they need? What does this look like for them? And then that's going to impact your transition support for them, right?
For sure. We like our lessons are generalized, but they're geared to every individual too, you know what I mean? So it's really nice.
What type of placements might there be? And you already told us they don't receive the on-the-job coaching.
No.
So the only thing you go for is the interview? Like, would you even go for the orientation day?
So again, it would depend on the individual, right? We usually set up an interview for all my students, and then there would be a site visit, but I'm always constantly touching base with the employers behind the scenes. So it would be up to, all three parties to see what is needed. With that said, so placements have happened everywhere. Restaurants,
especially in
cleaning
Niagara,
positions,
like industry,
cleaning positions, seasonal positions, gardening positions, daycare positions.
That's really great.
Yeah, you name, and you know what?
So everything, from entry level to professional.
For sure, absolutely. And some of our students have been hired on after the fact, right? So that's obviously not what we set these things up for, but if it leads to it, it does happen.
That's very cool.
So it's very nice. And I mean, we're open to working with anybody as long as it's going to provide a safe environment where our students are going to build those skills. And it's making sure that we have those individuals that can or want to go to those businesses too, right?
Yeah.
So we take a lot into account.
That's great. I love that you're trying to individualize it based on the students' interests. So kind of what employers do you have available and what are the students' interests, and then pairing them.
Right. And the cool thing about our program is, so it's a 4-semester program.
Right.
The first semester, there is no placement. We kind of set up those pre-employment professional skills, expectations at the workplace. And placement 1 would happen in semester 2. We try to get them on campus.
All right.
So with one of our partners, whether it's athletics or the greenhouse or the cafes.
The radio. I think is a radio station?
No, we haven't partnered with the radio station. There is a radio station, but we haven't partnered.
There was a student. Oh no, I think he's with a different radio station than maybe. All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we have partnered with radio stations, but not for the on-campus one.
Okay.
But
and there's a lot on campus.
Tons
like
of
you're saying,
on-campus.
That's great.
And it gives us an opportunity to see them working in a safe environment on campus where I can go more often, visit them.
Isn't that wonderful for the one who's really nervous?
100%.
Like, that's so safe, right?
100%. Yeah. And it just gives us an opportunity. So now I get to see them on the job. Yeah. So that tells me a lot. Okay, you got fine motor skills. Yeah. You can do this, you can do that. And then we always try to open up doors, right? And open up minds where an individual might be, I just want to clean. Well, why don't you try working at a resort? where you're cleaning, but you're also interacting with customers a little bit, right? So we always try to gently push,
really great.
just a little bit, just to open up those skills and
we all need that.
100%.
I need that. Like to push just a little bit out of my comfort zone.
Just a little bit, but you know what? Again, it's not to break them. It's just enough to kind of build on.
Say, hey, maybe they would learn. Actually, I really did like that. And now I want to do
100%
customer service.
Like, we've been in employment where individuals have taken a job that they might not want to, and they end up loving it, right?
True.
So, I mean, I never even thought about employment. And then this is how I got here, right?
Okay, I know.
So it's always cool.
Yeah, very neat. Okay, so all different kinds of placements. And you mentioned, so the second semester, they're in the college.
Yep.
And then by third semester,
fourth semester, if they're ready, they're out in the community to a community partner where they're building skills at a placement.
Are they getting 2 community placements? Like, do you do a third semester and a fourth?
It's all individualized. Yeah, so there's 3 placements in total.
Okay.
And it's all individualized based on that student's needs. So if some are ready or some need extra practice doing some skills, we do that, right? So we just want to make sure that it's going to be successful and that the student feels comfortable.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I can attest to I've had to do resumes for people who have gone through your program. So once they've completed the CICE program, they may then, as you're saying, they say, I want to go find a job. And then they hooked up with me at the program I was working at. And then I've been able to build some really neat resumes from the CICE program because of all of these placements that they've done.
For sure. And they don't really think about it as employment, but it is. We treat it as such, right? Like 100%. You've had 3 jobs now.
Yep.
And that flushes out a resume.
Even all the pre-employment stuff that you do in that first semester can go on the resume.
100%.
And one of my tips actually in my 30 tips is talking about what could possibly go on the resume. And so much can go on a resume that we don't even think about, right?
Yeah.
But like especially coming from the CICE program.
And I tell everybody, especially doing resumes for years, there's nothing that's not important.
Yeah.
Right? It's just showcasing what you want to tell, the story you want to say.
Yeah.
Because that's a representation of yourself, right? And I really feel like we do start resumes in our program, but we really empower them to reach out to an employment advisor afterwards, just because they get that professional touch.
That's great too, though, right?
100%.
That's how the real world works. That you go off to or you do it yourself, or most people will go off to an agency and get that support.
For sure, and they have a good, I call it the skeleton of a resume, where now they can take that to an individual. It makes the employment
counselor's job.
Well, 100%, right? You can take it, make it look pretty, but at the end of the day, they have the substance, right?
I love that.
So it's really nice.
That's incredible. That makes somebody feel so good.
100%.
When I have developed, especially an entry-level resume for somebody who doesn't even think, well, I don't know, I haven't done anything. What have I done? And then you put that together and they go, wow, I've done all that.
Right.
That builds the confidence for the interview.
100%.
It's incredible to say, yep, I did that.
Well, and the cool thing is we've also built in a learning facilitator meetings on a weekly basis. So each student is assigned to a learning facilitator, which I guess it would be like an educational assistant.
Yeah,
equivalent, kind of like that, right? And they would meet for 15 minutes every week to kind of talk about, what are the skills you're working on? How are you working on them? What are we doing? What do we need help with? Connecting with community agency. So if that's like an individual comes to us about applying to a job, that's not really what we do. We work on those generalized skills, but a learning facilitator can start pointing in directions to kind of connect that individual.
Wow, I love that, because then they won't get lost. That person won't get lost in a group of students,
100%.
Another group of people.
Right.
It can so easily happen. Again, if you're dealing, especially when you're dealing with somebody with a disability, that they may not know how to articulate what they need in a classroom, but when you get them one-on-one, that person can really get that out of them, right?
Yeah.
So what do you find helps a student then with all of that, and especially because it's individualized, what do you find when you have a student that comes in, what about that person kind of like give us the characteristics or qualities or supports that means that it's going to help somebody be successful?
Okay. So there has to be a level of independence, okay? So part of our program is that they have to come to college on their own.
All right.
Okay, no support person. We provide the support in the classroom.
Yeah.
But they have to navigate the campus. They have to be able to, manage their time, right? So if an individual isn't quite there yet, those are skills that they can certainly work on, right? they have to be able to attend a work placement by themselves, because we don't go to work with them.
All right. That was one of my questions. There's there, just like job coaching, which we've talked about on this channel before. I've talked about, that's not part of your program.
That's not part of our program, because we want to see what they can do, right?
Yep.
The commitment for placements are 30 to 50 hours throughout their 3 per semester. So at the end of the day, that's not a lot of time. So we just want to make sure that they get a taste of that job. And sometimes, as you know, when you bring a job coach, that employer might not treat it the same as they might with an employee, right?
Yeah.
So we just want to give them that opportunity.
A realistic, as much as possible,
for sure,
a very real work experience.
100%. So they have to have that level of independence.
Yep.
And they have to be committed. I mean, they have to be able to show up.
Yeah.
Right? And that's
with any of these programs.
And that's the thing, right? Like it's you can talk the talk, but you have to be able to walk the walk.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we really ask 2 things of our students: you show up and try.
Yeah.
And you know what? Anywhere I've done lots of jobs in my life, and anywhere I've gone, those are the 2 things that you're going to be successful with. You show up and you try.
Yeah. And then no matter whether your goal is that socializing or wanting to find a job, both of those things require you to show up.
100%.
Right? And if you're trying to learn socializing or social skills, then you have to practice it, which means that you're showing up.
100%.
Show up and try.
Those are my 2 things that I kind of start all my classes with. Because I'm really, when you break it all down, it comes down to that, right?
Yeah. Now, have you ever had, I didn't have this as a question, but have you ever had somebody who started in the program and they were really scared about going out to a placement?
Oh, for sure.
Many
anxiety, I think anxiety and employment goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
And then individuals with disability just have a higher level of anxiety because they face more barriers, right?
Yeah.
So anxiety, and I say, you're in the minority if you're not worried, right?
Yeah.
I think anxiety, I live with anxiety every day, right? I always get worried about what we're going to do. We just have to, we devise strategies to deal and get through it.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's a really good point. That's another thing I'm finding on most of my interviews with people with disabilities. At the end, I always ask, what would they recommend, right? Or how would they encourage somebody else? And they're always like, just do it and do it afraid.
100%. I think Princess Leia said, be afraid, but do it anyway. Right?
So like so what I would like to do is, of course, encourage, if you're a listener and you're thinking about going to the CICE program at Niagara College, or more than likely any learning environment, and you're all new, like if you're starting at the same time as all these other new people, everybody else is going to be nervous
100%.
too, right?
Well, the professors are nervous about the new batch of students, right? So everyone's nervous.
And what to expect and all that stuff. So, so you go and you literally just take it one day at a time.
Yeah, and the good thing about our program is we have a orientation outside of the college orientation.
Okay.
So we really build 2 days where they get to come in, they familiarize themselves with the students that they're going to be working with. We show that we give them tours, we plan fun activities, right? So we really try to take all the anxiety away.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's still that piece, we know that is, but we do everything we can to kind of
settle those nerves.
They know everything before they even come here day 1.
That's great.
So it's really
once you settle those nerves, you're much more ready to learn.
For sure.
And able to take in what you need to do
100%.
when you feel safe about the learning.
100%.
And
we're here for the
that's
students.
Great.
So,
That's great. Now, a little more personal. What have you loved most about the work that you're doing here at the college?
Seeing the students' progression, seeing them where they start and where they end, and as they walk across the floor to get their diploma.
No, that must be so exciting.
It was. I partook in my first one last year, and it was pretty cool. Just knowing that, like, I was a small piece of that, right? Like that, because the team is awesome here. But seeing them have confidence in themselves and becoming, I call it the awakening, right? Because when you see someone in employment find their confidence, there's nothing better.
So true. Especially as we were just talking about new students, people who aren't really sure, they come in and they could have never seen themselves walking across that stage getting a college diploma.
For sure.
And just that they were so scared. One day I'll have to interview one of your students.
You know what?
Sure.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
The confidence they exude at the end, it's like night and day. And just seeing, like, knowing where they started and as a job developer or a field placement officer,
Yeah.
you're like, what am I going to do, right? Like, where are we
Yeah.
going to, and then seeing it come together is just, wow.
Very cool.
Right? Like, it's really,
it makes it all worth it. All the blood,
Oh,
sweat, and tears sometimes,
yes,
right?
absolutely.
It's not all joy. It's not all fun and games.
well,
right?
you know, we try to make it fun, but yeah, there's days.
Well, sometimes for the faculty, I mean, students are going to have their nerves, but even for faculty, I'm sure there's always trying days.
Yeah, for sure.
With the, you know, it's all part of the course. It's all part of the program.
100%,
right?
100%, yeah.
So it's real nice to see that happen. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, what are some of the challenges that you and your team face in the program? Challenges even in the community?
Well, job developing for individuals with disabilities,
Yeah.
you're very, like, I always approach it as being very honest, right?
Yeah.
Like, but the minute you say the word disability, I think people have that notion in their head, and it's not always a positive one, right? So I think getting new businesses on board to understand what we're trying to do, I wouldn't say it is a challenge, right? And part of the problem is because we're in Niagara, public transit's an issue, right?
Sure.
So you might have the perfect employer, but we can't get a student to them, right?
Yeah.
So it's always those multiple things in action that you're trying to navigate, right? So that's a big one for sure.
And even if you may have the right employer, but you might not have the student that wants to work with that employer. Right. And I know as a job developer, keeping that relationship active is very critical. And then the other way around, of course, you've got a student who wants a certain employer, that employer is not available, or perhaps they're not willing, which thankfully, as I was just talking with the lady I was doing an interview, actually her video just went live today. It's Jordan Menzies.
Okay.
Jordan Menzies, I keep saying that wrong. But Jordan Menzies, and we talked about how the conversation with employers is much different now than it was 20 years ago. It's definitely better.
Yeah, and I would say employers are jumping on board. And some employers are even reaching out.
That's great.
Yeah, 100%. It is. I don't want to say it's a challenge. It's just it's always finding that right fit, right?
Yep.
And making sure that the student is going to be successful, setting them up for success. And what does that look like? Because we see students in the class during their first semester, they don't have a placement in their first semester.
Yeah.
So I get an opportunity to kind of get to know them.
Yeah.
But again, like we all know, the classroom's different than the workplace. So sometimes the ones that you might think wouldn't find something challenging, find it challenging. Whereas the opposite, ones that you think might struggle, don't, right?
Yeah.
So it's always...
Yeah. But you're there. You're not on the job, but you're there as a resource to the employer.
100%. Right? We're involved the entire placement through. So I'm a phone call away. I also provide site visits where I go and see the students on the job.
Yeah.
And I'm in constant contact with these employers. So if there is a problem, they know that we solve it immediately. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, they want the student to succeed too, right? Like no one wants this to be a bad experience, because we want it to be a good experience for not only our students, but the employer. Right. So we want to make sure we value those partnerships. And if there's something that needs to be addressed, we address it right away. And we have something really cool. We call it an employment profile. Okay. So we've created it for the student to share with the employer.
I remember this. Yeah,
so it's really trouble. Like, how do they learn best? Do they need written lists? Do they need a video with their phone? We have technology. It's not always a bad thing, right?
Yep.
So can they take a video of the job so they can rewatch it on their own time and learn that job, right? Repetition. Can they ask, who do they go to for a supervisor? Because some businesses, are bigger and 4 or 5 supervisors, they might not know.
Right. Who should they go to?
Yeah, it's intimidating.
I know this is one of your favorite parts. So give us an example of a successful placement, maybe one that looked like it wasn't going to work out, but then it really turned around, or it turned into an employment opportunity that you just didn't see coming.
It's hard to pick a favorite because there's just been so many examples of successful placements, but there was a unique situation where an individual had a lot of anxiety, social anxiety. Yeah. A normal workplace wasn't going to be suitable. Okay. And she had kind of done the on-campus thing. She had kind of done, the same kind of jobs. And I wanted to do something special. Like, I wanted her to leave with that experience. So I reached out to an author friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, might you take on this individual? Because you have your own business, you promote your books, right? And this individual can now learn how to market, like, or even such a basic skill as social media, right? Things like that. So she agreed to take her on.
That's awesome.
We navigated the interview process. We navigated the whole placement, and she was able to just build these skills that I never would have thought this individual would have had.
Wow.
Yeah, like navigating like a book launch.
Yeah.
And like I wouldn't know what to do.
And her confidence
and
doing that.
And she was showing me these PowerPoint presentations, these cap cuts, and all these videos she was making. She must have
been so excited to be showing.
And she was able to see all these skills in herself that she never saw.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that one really, I
love that.
Got a tear to my eye, to be honest. Yeah, when that happened, and the employer really appreciated it. Like it changed her mind on employment too, because she was like, wow, like now I have help. Seeing the employer growth, watching them come in with their expectations, and then realizing, wow, like they're some of my best staff, right? They're setting the example. Oh
my gosh. 100%. And staff morale can go up around the whole team.
Yeah. And if this person can do it like this well for free, what's wrong with you guys, right? So yeah.
They can kind of prod their own style.
That's it, right? And seeing that, watching the growth in our employers too, right? And I mean, we all, even myself, right? What my thoughts are when it starts and where I end. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah,
there's some growth there too. So it just, that growth is always important.
We can't limit anybody,
no.
Right? There comes a point where yes, you've got realistic expectations about, but we have to be careful not to set those limits too soon.
For sure.
Sometimes we've got to try and fail, but there are so many more times that we try and we succeed and we go, wow, like you're just blowing me away.
100%. And it's like the conversation I had with one of my first clients. He wanted to be an NHL player, but he didn't. He was a 45-year-old man and he never skated before.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay.
All right.
So instead of bursting your bubble, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
What's the first step you have to do?
Yeah.
Well, I have to learn how to skate. And how long is that going to take? Well, maybe a year. Okay. Then what do you got to do?
Yeah.
Well, I got to join a hockey league. I said, okay. And how long will that take to learn the basic skills?
Sure.
Probably 3 years. Okay. So now we start adding this up and we're going through the process, and now he's realizing if he had all those skills, like we didn't even talk about whether or not he has those skills, he's going to be 57. And I said, okay, so at 57, do you think an NHL male would have a good career? He's like, probably not. And he came to that realization because that was him making those calls, right? It's not for us as employment individuals to say that's not possible, because anything is possible. It's just what's realistic.
Sure.
Right.
And I think that's the smart, like it's wise to do that. Walk through it. That's what a coach does.
100%.
Whether you have somebody with disabilities or not, your job is to just walk them through it and then allow them to make that decision. And even if he decided, I'm still going to go learn how to skate. I'm still going to keep trying to do this. Well, there are a couple of things. That's the autonomy of it all. And then there's a phrase that I love, which is called dignity of risk. So you have the dignity to make your own life choices and have the risk of whatever happens, right?
Sure.
So you're just there to guide and support. So
100%.
What are the prerequisites then to attend the program? How does somebody apply?
Okay, so at the end of the day, it would be like any other college application. Yeah. So they would go to their resource department in high schools and kind of talk to them. We're connected all through Niagara and outside of all the way up to Toronto and outside of there, because students are coming from all over.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so they would just talk to their high school resource teacher or guidance counselor and kind of start connecting just like you would with any other college program. Or you can find more information at Niagara College.
Awesome.
Yeah, so.
And speaking of that, do you know how far the most distant learner has come from? And I just
if I'm not mistaken, there was an individual from Thunder Baby prior to my time involved. Yeah, so the individual actually moved down after they graduated. Yeah, so
that's really cool.
So I think 7.
It's showing a huge deal of independence and change.
100%, and building that, right?
Everything that goes along with that.
Yeah, she jumped in both feet and she went all in, and she huge success story. Another one. Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, how can families, employers, community members, and agencies support what the college is doing here right now in this fantastic program?
I just think opening up doors, right? At the end of the day, we just want to build opportunity, whether it's for students or employers. We just want to establish the brand, the CICE brand. We're here to stay, right? We're growing, and we just want to make sure that everyone knows about it. Because even there are some people here who work at the college that may not be aware too, because it's so big. And we're just trying to have that growth where people, where it's not a thing, where it's just accepted, right? Like this is what we do.
Another program at the college.
And we're there. And it's just time to share all the good work that we're doing.
It's wonderful. And you guys are on Facebook.
We're on Facebook,
I recently, not too long ago, a couple months maybe, followed your Facebook page.
For sure, Niagara College.
And you guys
CICE.
have CICE merch.
Yes,
the college?
Through the college, I think they do different runs at different times, right?
All right.
But there's some merch, and if they just go to Niagara College and look up CICE, we'll pop up.
Awesome. Yeah, make sure you guys follow that Facebook page, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, this has been incredible, Aaron.
Well, thank you so much.
This is great. I think there's so much information here. I feel like we could talk still forever.
A couple more hours,
Especially about the students and the employers, because that's what it boils down to, is making those connections for placement, of course. If employment happens, that's wonderful, but nonetheless, sounds like you guys have an incredible team here.
Amazing
You're doing
team,
lots of things. Again, very individualized, and you heard it from Aaron, how you can connect. Even if you just Google Niagara College, bring up CICE, start talking to your guidance counselors at high schools and all those sorts of things, and you can get connected to this wonderful program. And I thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this content and you want to hear more information about people with disabilities around employment, continued learning, or you want to be highlighted yourself, I'm always looking to do interviews. You can email me at info@plotsoflove.ca. Make sure you leave a comment below thanking Aaron for his time. If you have any questions, leave them below too. I'll make sure I get them to Aaron. And as well, these videos are brought to you by Plots of Love, which is a cemetery gardening service in the Niagara region. We help people honor their loved ones who are laid to rest here. So you don't have to live here to take advantage of our services. But if your loved one is laid to rest here, we would be happy to serve you that way as well. Our goal is to hire people with disabilities. So just remember, if you do access our services, you are helping people with disabilities secure employment. Thank you so much. And until next time, take care. Bye-bye.